Ever wonder what goes into designing the perfect retouching workflow? On today's episode of the Wrap Party podcast, we're talking with Ale Giordano, one of our product designers here at VeryBusy.io. She's breaking down how she transforms real feedback from users into game-changing features so you can work smarter, not harder. Enjoy the episode. You know, last night I was having a hard time sleeping because I sent you some feedback on some designs, and I was like, oh, she's gonna be so mad at me because I'm like, I gave her way too much feedback and too much input. And then I came back to my computer, I did a few of these, and I'm like, okay, Ali, I updated it.
I encourage it because I think that after, 2 years now, we built that foundation where I'm really comfortable challenging your ideas and I don't feel any pressure feeling like I need to do, it's like a command. I never see it that way. I always...
Oh, yeah, no. It's a very collaborative relationship amongst all of us, I feel, which is good because it's not everybody has the right answer or the right perspective all the times. And then you also need to take the users into account and what they say. This is probably a great segue into introducing you, Ale, and what you do within VeryBusy as a product designer, product developer, who's been with us now for, has it been two years now? Has it been that long?
Two-ish.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, time goes fast. So, you are leading off, product design for when we want to launch new features. We want to refine things, update things, do improvements. You have your hand on what it's going to look like within the platform, the UI and the design and how it looks and how it feels. Beyond all of that, too, you are really involved with our users as well. You're just talking about how you do user interviews, and that's a huge part of the process, which Emily and I like to do as well. I think talking to users is central to not only just the design part, but the development part and just the business part of I think, what we're trying to do here. So, but yeah, anything you want to chip in and say as a little hi, being on with them and I for the first time? And
I do remember the first time I met you guys. I told my team member at the time, I want to create a vibe of a game. I want to get to know them. And I wrote a game that we had to draw each other. I remember
that icebreaker game, yeah.
The icebreaker game.
That was pretty good. Actually, I think I have screenshots of all the portraits we drew.
Yeah,
somewhere.
You Peter had big muscles. That was that was Da Vinci. That was you were shredded. I remember that icebreaker. You've been with our company for such a long time that I knew I could do that. I didn't know anything about retouching. I used to do photography when I was younger, so I was aware of Photoshop, of Bridge. I remember I was in a crazy phase where I like to add butterflies to all my images and I wanted them to look real. For some reason, I thought that was really cool. So that was my experience with Photoshop. And I said, I have these cards to impress them. I used to be a photographer, which I was not, but it did help me a little bit to understand. And then, of course, always open to, I remember having lots of conversations with you guys, asking you questions about your world, because I am far away and that's not minor. So yeah, I think I have to be someone that asks questions and understands not only the feature and the technical side, but the context, which is very important.
Yeah, so that's you touched on something that's a little bit unique about our relationship, and that is that you are employed technically by Amalgama. You're based in Buenos Aires, they're your employer, but you work with us day in and day out. You're exclusively on VeryBusy, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so this is your baby as much as it is ours, and your DNA is throughout the platform. Just personally, for me, I'm always impressed when you come back after you've benchmarked what other platforms are doing or talked with other users, how you're able to synthesize that information into a functioning feature that actually goes into production. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about your role in maybe going from 0 to 1 on a feature, and how that process looks.
Well, first, you guys are the starting point of all the ideas. I always start benchmarking because we have conversations about things that you find interesting to work on, mainly because I always say this, I'm very fortunate as a product designer that I have exclusive beta testers and power users at my disposal 24/7. It's not common in product that you have users that are your clients. And it can either be great, but also challenging as everything in life. But you guys are so passionate about your work, which makes my work easy. So usually I like that the ideas come from you. And what I always try to do is, not because I don't want to follow your lead, but I say, okay, I need to understand this. Like I need to really get it and not take it and do it without questioning. Because in product design and everything we do, I think passion comes from, okay, I'm going to rephrase this or to see how others do it. So that's where the benchmarking comes. And also, nothing is invented in design. Nothing. I try to be super humble because I don't invent the wheel. Never. But that's my process. I go for the reference. I use other platforms, not only for feedback. I use many platforms because maybe there's a business, other products that are doing things very interesting, but it's different from what we do. But I could use it also. So then I start creating from our own Figma and I play around. I try to do many versions, designs. Like I try not to go for the first idea, which is the sketch. That's the one I usually show to you guys. Like this is a sketch. I say this is rough. And then we start, everything is very co-creative. I don't know if that's the word.
Yeah, very, yep.
And then through there, again, 2 years. So we have oil in our cars. It's very, I try to take it off your hands, try to understand what you need, what the user needs, and then it's communicating and then the dev team, which they are just delightful. I love them.
Well, I think the thing that I think is so funny is, and it drives me crazy. We'll hear what users are talking about and want, and then Em and I will talk, and then we'll talk to you, and we'll talk to the team, and like, okay, for this next sprint or kind of upcoming roadmap, let's start mapping out some of these features. And we'll come to a feature, and like Em and I will be like, okay, we got to do it this way, and this is how you do it, and then we'll kind of like give some feedback, and like maybe I'll send over like a little prototype I was thinking about. And then you come back with a refined version of it that's different. And then we start tearing it apart and like, well, this. And then we come like an hour later, we come back full circle and be like, yeah, you did it right. You did it right. We get why you did that. Yeah, it makes sense now. Like, you can't do it the other way. So it's like, it's one of those things where you can be so confident in something you're building and something you need, but until you really dive into it and get the others' opinions and talk to other people about it and actually work through it, like talk through it. And there's so many different facets and like complicated things that go into building software that you don't even think about. It's not just a little button on a screen. It does all kinds of other things too. And is connected to everything. So, I mean, your job's not just design, but like, I mean, you're like, we're working on an approval flow right now. And like the mapping you're doing from like a user's journey through approval flows. And like, I mean, it's, yeah, I know you lost sleep over it, you know, like maybe you're still losing sleep over it.
But you know what? I was talking with my team the other day because they had to like give me a few hugs, but because I wanted to get it right. That's the thing. I knew it was important because I was reading a few articles online that says approval process is the biggest pain points in companies. I was like, how am I, like, I'm just a small town girl from Argentina. How am I going to solve the approval process for them? And that's where the pressure came. But it came from me. And I think we were going into calls, revising, understanding, and trying to get it right. And I think we got to a point where it was who raised her hand, and she was the UXer at that point, because she was. And she said, we need to interview people. And in my head, I forgot the principles of UX, which is if you are taking too long to get to the result, to get to a flow where it makes sense, it's because you don't have the answer, period. No article, no sketches, nothing. If a call, it takes 2 hours, that's the red flag there. So I think Pat raised her hand. So it's full circle. I don't do what I do because it's because I have the space, I think. So,
well, I think in that instance, we had been on a long streak of like 2-week sprints, release. And I think we were ready to roll into the approval feature, kind of thinking with the same mindset, getting that into development and into production and into people's hands. But one of the things that's unique about the approval process for Peter and I as retouchers, we're often operating on the outside of that process. We're usually waiting until it's done to take our next steps. And so it's a little bit of a black box for us. And that's ultimately why I raised my hand. I felt like Peter and I were doing our best to kind of put together our years of experience. But at the end of the day, we're not actually a part of that process. So I think wanting to get to the bottom of how users were undertaking these tasks already, their jobs to be done, etc.
Yeah.
And thinking about it from that perspective.
Well, also, it's like we have everybody from an individual retoucher to a larger internal creative team on VeryBusy, and the approval process for either of those people are different. The retoucher may not be on that side of it, like Em just said, or maybe they have another retoucher working with them and they want to incorporate it that way. And then when you have a team of 25, 30 people, it looks a bit different. The complicated thing with creative review, too, is like, and it's probably like this with a lot of other review and approval processes, but it's just like every team could be different. So how do you make something that can simplify workflows enough but still be flexible enough to work for a multitude of different teams? And it takes time to get there. But I also think, too, it's like part of, you just, when we get to that point and just talking to the users and saying, hey, like I sat in one of your interviews and like you're walking them through our designs and the stuff you laid out and built and figuring out like, hey, how do they interact with this? And so it's amazing watching, like you can learn so much just within that hour of somebody who's never seen it before and then figuring out, okay, did we build this in a way that somebody will quickly understand? I think it's a big ethos of our whole entire platform is keeping it incredibly easy, even though we're trying to do some pretty robust things. And that's I think that's a very complicated thing for you to try and tackle. It's like, these really simple solutions visually and just workflow wise for complicated tasks.
Yes. Yeah. You participated in one. I was a bit nervous. Yeah. Maybe like to explain a bit what user interviews are, because you, Peter, said that you've never been into one. I was like, I never invited him. So yeah, what I do is usually when we have a question, when there's doubts or we have a flow we need to validate, we reached out to people that use VeryBusy. Usually we try to target specific people. So for example, as we're saying, this approval feature is for teams, it's for larger groups of people with complex flows, with retouchers in-house, external. So it's very varied. And we contact specific users that might benefit from using the tool. And first we start asking questions. But when you're interviewing people, you don't want to ask them sort of like, would you be interested in using this? Because people are nice and they want to say yes to you. So I always try to understand what they're doing now without, I don't want to put them in their heads that they need to answer me something. They just need to explain to me what they're doing, plain and simple. And they start to break down. Slowly, they start to get more confident and they start showing me, maybe they start sharing their screen to me and showing me VeryBusy. So the user interview is to get to know them, basically. I don't need to validate anything because what they're saying, their experience is already validating the feature. I always say, I'm going to show you a prototype. And maybe they start clicking the buttons all frustrated. And I say, I'm sorry, I need you to suffer. Because if you suffer, you give me. I win because you give me questions. You give me, I'm trying to do this because when I want to approve, I want to change the label. Great.
Yeah.
Next. Good to know. Like, I don't have the answers. Or when they ask something to me, I say, why are you asking that? Or why? I try to be nice and also get them a bit fired up.
Yeah. It's a funny experience because it sometimes feels a little unnatural. It's like,
yes.
It's like you're not giving them much because you just want them to naturally act how they would if they're sitting there alone trying to figure this out, right? You don't want you to influence them. And yeah, it's cool to watch and like see from, and depending on who the person is, like how they react to it. And like, yeah, some people get pretty excited to offer up their critiques though.
Yeah. And
great.
And with this feature in particular, I think I'm trying to, going back to what you said, Peter, how can we make it scalable for everybody? Sometimes you're actually starting to realize that you don't need to create this big approval workflow feature that's incredibly big. Sometimes you just need to give the right tools to the right people that they can make something from it and they can create their own approval process. Maybe it's not called that way. Maybe you give them those, a sign. And with the assign, they start, and already with the enables, they're doing it, but it's just maybe adding a little layer extra of what they already have. Because I'm seeing that when they're trying to create their approval process, they're so hardworking, these users. They love what they do. They're very passionate. They really want to get the job done. And they are very, I don't want to say the word strict, but very cohesive with their workflows.
Yeah.
What I sense.
I think that's kind of inherent, I think, to our industry than people who are really in the thick of it. Because if you can have a well thought out workflow that works and is consistent, like the amount of time and headache that will save you, especially when they're in the middle of a production, which is like, you're putting out fires anyway sometimes. So it's like you don't got time to deal with like, okay, are they checking on images? Is this person keeping up with their reviews? Where are those images? So yeah, it's like, it's good to see the users excited and finding the solution within VeryBusy that way.
Yeah, and they are already. It's just in these interviews, we just find like small tweaks, small things. And as I said, maybe we were creating this big thing and it's just going to the source and extracting a bit of information.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think I liked about our process over thinking about the approval process, because some of them get so complicated and like just bloated with just different options and like this and that. And a lot of the platforms could just be complicated to the point where it's like, okay, what's the point of a review and approval process when it takes you an hour to set it up for each project or something? Or like, why? Let's simplify this down. So like how you approached it and mapping all this stuff out and figuring out all these user journeys and then kind of pulling back and figuring out like, what do we actually need to get the job done? And then bringing that to the users, talking with them. Maybe it's a different path that we take. I know we experience with like requests or approvals or assigning or all those kind of things you go through. So, yeah, I'm excited for it to get locked in and then start rolling out, because I think it's an incredibly valuable feature, especially for teams. I did want to touch upon quickly. You're down in Argentina. We use Amalgama for our well, let's see. They have. First of all, it's kind of a standalone team that does development, design, business development. Like, you guys do a lot of stuff, and you guys have amazing people. And we actually started with you. What, 5 some years ago, where I think there's only like 19 people within the company. Maybe I think now you guys are at like 70 or 80 people. Yeah. But just the wealth of talent you guys have, and the thing I think we love most about it is, we get people like you to work dedicated with us, dedicated devs, everything on our team. And we've had the best experience building a product through you guys, because, we are not technical co-founders. We didn't come in knowing how to build software or the process, and you guys partnering with us and doing this, like, it's like having your own internal team, essentially, is what it feels like, you know? We're on video every day with each other, talking just like this. So it's it's been good. So
yeah. Well, last year, I was in a meeting and I told my team, that we're in a startup. Like, forget Amalgama. Like, yes, we are exclusively in VeryBusy. I always say I work for VeryBusy, and I told them, remember, we're in a startup. This is not like typical agency style where you go from client to client. I saw myself growing a lot in VeryBusy, because at one point in my career, they say, okay, maybe VeryBusy needs you, Ale, and it's a nice opportunity for you. And I was really scared because, well, as all challenges, if you're not scared, it's good to be a little bit scared.
Yeah, totally. A little uncomfortable.
Yeah, a little uncomfortable, because VeryBusy has been in Amalgama for so long, and it's huge now, and it's big challenge. Like, creating a feature, it's touching a button that could unlock like different path, unknown path. And I said, yeah, if they think they need me, I'll go. And it has been really rewarding. Yeah, no, I think it's just everybody brings something new to the table. Everybody. I think everyone is not changeable, but things need to evolve. So yeah, in VeryBusy, I feel like I'm in a startup. We are a very strong team. The devs are amazing. And even if somebody goes because they need to do something else with, their journey, I'm very comfortable with that, because the next one to come, it's going to bring new ideas. We all know each other. We're in an office. We say hi. We drink mate, which is a beverage in Argentina. Yeah, it's a community. We learn from each other. But I do feel like VeryBusy is a place where you can say, okay, I work for VeryBusy, so that this is my world. And I have support, which is great, because I'm in a startup and I have a room of experts right next to me.
I know,
that I can ask them questions. Yeah.
Right?
But
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
Well, let's dive into let's talk about kind of like our development and design process, because I think it's pretty cool. And as we've built VeryBusy, I think it's become a point of, like, we're pretty proud about it, in terms of being user-centric, and that, what we're building is really based off what users are asking for. Yes. And then, like, just what you talked about, Ale, like, going and talking to the users and getting those user interviews and figuring out if what we're building is how they would use it, if it's the right solution or not. But yeah, I'm also trying to think too, like early on, with even before we decided, like when we were first iterating and starting out VeryBusy, I know you and I had some ideas and like some sketches and plans. Man, I gotta find it too. I think I have like an initial sketch of like what VeryBusy could look like, and like
I think we have it in our like files.
Wonderful, yeah.
Yeah, back when we had no concept of what actually goes into software development, no idea what agile was, or
it's one of those things though. It's like if we knew what we would have gone through and what would it take to get here, like would we have done it? Maybe not. Like.
Well, we've seen people come and go in the time that we've been around.
Oh, totally. Totally.
There is a need for what we're doing, and there are people trying to solve the puzzle. But what people might not know is that this process of building software takes a great deal of persistence and consistency. You have to keep going. You have to keep iterating and developing not just new features, but refactoring the code and making sure that it's up to date and easy to work with. And then, of course, as you invite people onto the platform, they come with their own set of ideas and expectations for what the platform should do. And you can ignore them, but you can also expect not to thrive. Because when you create a piece of software, ideally you're combining multiple perspectives, being a good UXer, like you said, Ale, and bringing in users to get their feedback.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get what you're saying, though, is like we juggle a lot of feedback at times. And, you struggle sometimes between your own perceived what things should be, and then you hear from the users, and then you see, okay, well, if we're going to actually develop and design this, it has to be done this way because that's how things really the only way we could do it right now, and you're limited in sometimes technology, but this and that. And, I think designing based off, users and putting them first, is kind of our true north in terms of we want to make sure we're building something that's usable. But at the same time, there's all these other parts of it too, where it's, building for the user, but which user? Because right now, we have retouchers, we have art directors, creative directors, photographers, and they all have different things they want out of the platform. So it's like, what do you focus on? I think right now we've kind of taken the approach of like the trickle up, we put out surveys or we look at our feedback board and what's the most upvoted thing or what's been the most commonly asked for thing, and looking at that and then looking at some other features and what would go along with this, or what overall improvement can we do to tackle a number of things here to cover what people are asking for most. Which is hard, And I know, Ale, we've juggled back and forth on a few things where it's like, we want to implement something now, but it's not the right time. We got to do this before we do this, like last year. I mean, I felt like last year was a hard one just because I felt like most of it was like refactoring and, updating your infrastructure and really getting the performance down, which is like not a visual thing users might see. Like, it's not like we're releasing updates every week like we have been, or every 2 weeks like we had been, where it's like, hey, batch commenting. Hey, we advanced uploads, side-by-side compare. It's like, oh, your images are loading faster, and, you support this now and this, and the code's easier to work with, so now we can develop faster. So yeah, there's a lot of juggling, I think, around just the design, the actual development, but then also just trying to steer it as a company in the right direction where it's like, it's still relevant and it can still grow, hopefully. And
Ale, I think that's where you and Jose come in. Jose's our product owner. Yes. She works hand in hand with you to come up with the strategy and the direction that we're heading in. Of course, she should be on here next time.
We'll do it next time.
I think, Peter and I are never short of ideas for what VeryBusy could do. And I think you and Jose have the difficult job of thinking, like Peter was saying, strategically about when to build things and how to build things, but also what are people asking for. Do you want to speak a little bit to some of those signals that you put out there that you use to get people to give you feedback?
Yeah, right now, I think, like going back to the growth of VeryBusy, of the people, like when you are starting small, you have a small group of people and they're like a family. So you're like creating a product, but you start like, hey, I'm creating a product, come and test my product, use it. So it's really easy to get people to talk to you and you have a really close relationship with them. But when you start growing and scaling, it actually, even though you have more people, it becomes more difficult because they're not your friends. They're just want to be better at their jobs.
Yeah.
VeryBusy is something that's there, but sometimes we forget that that's good because it's like they use it and they want to go on with their lives. So sometimes getting their attention, which is great because they're very busy and they have their lives. So you need to start getting more creative into getting their attention because there are some, we call them star users that, they know you and they always say yes, and that's great. Who are the others? How can I get them? So, incentives is a good thing. When you start being a more mature product, you start to realize that information that the user is giving you is money not invested in a bad idea. So you invest money in talking to them, they give you all the answers, and then you create something that it's a better investment of your code, your time, the design. So the time of creation gets shorter because you put more money into talking to them. Also, not only talking to them, you start building the tools to get that feedback, but that's all on Peter because you guys not only are the co-owners, I compare them. I should not be doing this, but I compare with other clients and I don't know, Emmy's doing onboardings of Intercom. Like what? Like a lot of autonomy into also helping the product grow. You are also like touching the dirt and you're creating onboardings to get people on board perfectly. Then Peter is setting up Frill to get, to show the product updates and get people voting. So it's not me, it's everybody. I just try to enhance those things. Yeah, so I say, okay, Frill, this is great. How can I apply it to the product? So I don't know, next feature that we build, we just say, hey, leave feedback. Maybe they don't leave it, it's just try and error. Or we show a model saying, hey, we're launching this. You want to give us your insights on this? Or just putting it out there a bit more, and you see other products go in that direction also. There's always a leave feedback because there's some people that maybe they will not know you personally, but they will love the platform so much that they will eventually leave a comment, vote something. And that small thing, it's big because you have 4 votes in a feature and you say, okay, this will leave my roadmap. It's very easy. Or the survey, you guys put a lot of effort on that. And we told you, hey, let's do this. And then you did it. Like we gave you good reasons to do so. Why put money on that? And we received so many feedback, so much information. And that actually created a roadmap. And also something interesting that I was saying is that when you're starting to build a product, I never built a product. So I'm talking here without ever building a product, but I was in product building. You start with one user and you guys took yourselves as the user, which was the retouchers. Like, let's fix retouchers' lives. And now that the product is so mature, like we are going, okay, but the retoucher is inside an ecosystem. What happens there? And those 3 retouchers, they're inside another ecosystem. And the product grows with us because there are other clients that are saying, I have a retoucher, he's using VeryBusy, but I am the lead retoucher. Could I use this? And it's like a net that gets created. And now teams are knocking on our doors without us. Like, okay, hi, I am part of a team and I want VeryBusy to help me. Yeah, sure. And that was a great insight. The business grows, we grow with them, and we start asking other questions. So, okay, if the retoucher is happy, then a team owner might want to use VeryBusy because the retoucher is happy. So it's like, as Amy's saying, it's like building the connection, growing with the product. And it's not easy, but it's,
No, not. And I think, and it's hard, and you can probably, attest to this, is like, we want to disrupt our user as much as possible when they're working. But at the same time, for us to get feedback and to get some real, like, live commentary on how we're doing is like, sometimes we need to put up that survey in app asking, hey, do you have time to give us feedback? Or, giving like rating, how's your experience in the app? Would you recommend us? And it's hard. Because it's a fine line sometimes, because then you get feedback. Some people are like, I like the app, but I hate these pop-ups, how do you get this to go away?
I'm sorry.
But then you get the wonderful things of, hey, we love the app, it's wonderful. So you get a little bit of both. I feel like you tiptoe sometimes around that. But at the same time, as it grows and you get all these more people into it, And now, like, I mean, it's fun to watch too, because like, we're thinking when we were building this out, we're used to, in the beauty world and clothing and, product and stuff like that. And some of the industries now that you see signing on, as clients, or kind of the population of users on the platform, from paid users inviting in collaborators and guests, and like, it grows, and it can grow pretty fast. Like it's fun every day to see people loading on the platform and using it and getting good experience with it.
How do you feel? Like, do you like wake up and say, hey, I help other researchers?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know, Em, what do you?
It depends on the day, the month, the hour.
I usually wake up tired because I was up all night thinking about a button or something. And no, just kidding.
You guys need vacation.
No, it's good. I think it's cool, like, to be part of, like, solving something. Like Em mentioned before, in the last 5-6 years, there's been some other collaborative platforms that have come and gone. We are very specifically focused within photography, specifically retouching and post-production and streamlining these workflows, which, being in this kind of niche part of it that we know well, we know how this industry is changing and kind of the trends and where things are going. And, a big thing on my mind lately is like figuring out, we get a lot of recommended for integrations and stuff like that, which we are top of mind for us, and looking and researching and thinking about how integrations could help VeryBusy and its users. But also just like the amount of assets people are creating these days. Like some of these photo studios that have 10 sets that are shooting hundreds of photos every day, and hundreds of gigabytes every day. And they then need to call those, organize those, make selects, do review rounds, get approvals. It's just more and more and more. As we're building out the platform, thinking about those things, like, okay, in a couple of years, can somebody dump or maybe not even a couple of years, maybe this year, I don't know. Can somebody dump a terabyte on here quick, and within 10 minutes, we have previews for them that they can quickly go through and make their selects for the day? Like, can we do that? Okay, that could be very useful. I mean, no more sending drives and cutting down on time. Your digital tech isn't up till 4 a.m. processing files. And, like, there's all those kinds of things that, you think about, and how the industry is changing, and how, what we're building now, how will that affect it down the road? And is there anything we can implement now that will make it easier down the road to make changes that will benefit everybody who's using the platform?
Yeah, I think one thing that we always say, it has to be easy, but I always come back to the time. That it's the most valuable for them. Like, they need to save time. It needs to be fast. And yeah, as Peter said, maybe there were a few months that nothing shiny was going out, but because if it's not fast, like the images upload fast, when you go through a project to a folder to another folder, it's not fast. You can have as many beautiful features as you want. If the user says this is slow, nothing will keep him or her.
That's annoying.
In the platform, it's annoying, and it's a very challenging industry and exciting because there are a lot of images. Some users have 40 folders with 50 images each, and VeryBusy needs to be prepared for that. And I think it 100% is. It's fast.
Yeah.
I have colleagues of mine saying, "What is going on with VeryBusy? Why is it so fast?" I said, well. No, but it's important to understand that, and nothing, as you said, nothing shiny is happening, which it can happen, but the foundations need to be really solid because of the industry, because of the images. It's not easy. From my very humbling beginnings, you were like 1 hour waiting for an image to be processed, and you need to empathize with those pains to build your platform. And also, 1 or 2 shiny things won't hurt anybody.
Shiny things, yeah. Well, no, it's good. I think it's, going through those, like, okay, we're going to spend 6 months on performance upgrades, great, But that was a lot of downtime for you and design stuff. I mean, there's a whole other side of this, too, and that's marketing, advertising. And you are really big in implementing and a big part of all the designs that go out on the marketing front. You and Jeremy, who is producing this call right now. So, I mean, not only on the product side of stuff, but you're on, the other side of the marketing side too, and helping us meld both the brand of VeryBusy and kind of shaping, and we're still growing it and like figuring out exactly what VeryBusy is as a brand, I think. But you've been pivotal in building that out too. And I mean, I think it's incredibly valuable to have somebody that can work on both sides, because it helps make things more consistent and like, between in-platform and out-of-platform and communications and stuff. So yeah, I mean, is that hard for you to go from both, like, or is it pretty seamless?
You're just lucky. I want to be everywhere all the time. You're just lucky that I just nudged myself in everywhere. Like, what are you doing? What is going on here? I think it was something that VeryBusy taught me about myself. I knew I loved design from the beginning. Design is my passion. So the meme is me. I never knew, I never had a plan B in my life. I knew it was design. As I said before, like when you experience, you understand that the problem is not the client. The client might be more challenging, might be less communicative. It's you building the skill sets to, to control that, but to just melt in. And you gave, no control. But you gave me, I'm controlling you without you knowing it. No, but you give me so much freedom. So it was natural to me to say, hey, this door is open. I can suggest, you can say no, and that's perfect. I just go and do what I have to do. At the end of the day, given that the door is open, I say, hey, maybe I can help out with design because I like it. It comes naturally. If I have time, I always try to bring value to the table if there's room. So yeah, designing social media was very fun because I say, hey, maybe my knowledge of the product can help here. Because one important thing about product development and design is you can do amazing things. If people don't know about it, maybe they won't find you. So awareness is very important. So I say, hey, maybe I need to be here because people need to be aware of VeryBusy. That was the thing that got me started. Like I want people to get to know VeryBusy, and we like it or not, good design sells better. So the first thing they see will be something pretty. So I say, hey, maybe I can make this more pretty, and I can show how beautiful VeryBusy is from the outside, which is the landing, the Instagram, LinkedIn. Sometimes there's beautiful design and the product is still too new and robust. Sometimes it's a beautiful design outside and the product is beautiful. Sometimes the outside is not so pretty, but when you use it's just being mature. I think being a product designer is having that view of everything. So is the outside pretty? What will people think when they enter the landing of VeryBusy? Will they say this is powerful?
Yeah.
Handle my hundreds of images. They need to feel that in design. I need to try to do so.
Yeah, I think there's like the expectation too is like you see all this marketing material and all this cool stuff, and it's like when you enter the platform, does it resemble it correctly? And I think it's great because I think VeryBusy is incredibly simple and beautiful in its own way in design, and it's still growing in that too. It's like we keep releasing different things, and then it's like, oh, we got to go back. Let's update. You got to update the emails now. Got new colorways. We're going to simplify it. We're going to do this, and it's kind of like a never-ending cycle of like refine, build, fix, refine. Like it's like you're always like going back and like combing over things and refining things. Nothing's ever perfect. I think that's a hard fact I learned is it'll never be perfect. And the first few things you release in an idea will not be perfect, and they're not perfect by design in a sense. You're just getting it out there so you can get feedback. But I think the beauty of VeryBusy, and when you came into this, I know we talked about this, and Emily and I are so adamant about building this from our previous experiences, and why we built VeryBusy is it needs to be simple. It needs to be not only the interface, but the way you use it has to be simple, and kind of redefining certain workflows and trying to make them not so complicated, and maybe trying to understand more about how teams can simplify their own internal structure. And maybe that's partially to fit into VeryBusy, but I think there are easier ways to do things when you can build a tool that's simple enough to implement, these workflows, not only just from that workflow sense, but just from a visual and understanding sense.
Yeah, I mean, going back to why I was scared of getting into VeryBusy at the beginning was because when you're developing something to a product that's already big and powerful, that's the most difficult part. To integrate it in a way that's cohesive and that the people that already used it and loved it don't feel anything. I remember one user saying, if you guys are doing changes, I don't feel anything at all. Like, okay, that's One time M said, no news is good news, because I was nervous about launching something. I was like, nobody's saying anything. And she said that and she called me and I said, okay, if they don't, that's true. Like when there are issues, they're going to come.
God, I know we've had a few where it's like, we did a design. Maybe this was before you came on, but there was one where we
You're being nice.
We changed.
It was around the no account collaboration.
Yeah,
I remember
no account
there was a user who was using it a very specific way with their external vendors, and when we changed the moment at which you enter your information from being when you want to comment to when you enter the platform, that created a roadblock for that user and their process. And that was very difficult to hear. And it's something that we have to acknowledge and work on moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the hard thing too, is like sometimes you need to make decisions because overall it's a better practice, or it's better for security. It's better just from a building standpoint, even though it might not be like for this one user the most convenient way for them, which is a hard thing for us to go back on, because to build on top of it and do other certain things, it had to be built out a certain way with permission wise, you know? So it's like you're not going to always win everybody over. And I don't think that's necessarily a failure or anything. I think it's just the hard truth of building software for thousands of people is not everyone's going to be perfectly 100% happy with it. But if they can still get what they need to get done and be overall pleased with it, you know, as we keep developing it, hopefully we win them over more and more and more.
I remember that. And I always think how difficult it must be for you guys, for somebody to send you an email with that. It is difficult for me, and I'm not the owner, so I always empathize with that. And I agree with both sides. We want all the users to be happy, super happy with the platform. Yeah, sometimes we push a change that might not that really piss somebody, but I try to see it as an opportunity, like to understand where is this user coming from, and maybe in the future others will come with something slightly similar, but there's another workaround, because I think it was a feature that we tried to make it safe. It's the balance between this is a very collaborative platform, but it's also safe. So when we launched the feature, it was very beta, and some people were scared of not knowing who entered their projects. And we want it to be really safe for them. Like and then in the future, that is an insight. Okay, I want it to be safe, but I want also to keep some things private. And that's the insight. Not opening the doors. It's like, hey, how do we make VeryBusy safe and also keep some things private? That's also in the future with the teams having privacy on folders, privacy on comments. So maybe it's just finding that middle ground that we can work with. It's not opening the door, but just like tweaking a few things. So I remember that time with no account collaboration, which was a really big feature. It was really difficult to do.
That was a big one. Yep.
It was a big one. We did interviews also with users for that one. Technically, it was super challenging because it was opening the door to let's make a link that everyone can access and everyone can experience the power of VeryBusy. And at the time, I remember the dev team was really shocked because there was no wall, no email, no nothing. And they were saying, nothing?
We need something.
We need something. We need
to know who's doing what in the platform.
Yeah, we need to make it secure. And it was just, let's just experiment. And then it got refined with time, with feedback. Good, bad, whatever it comes is part of growth. As you said, it's not failure. It's just more wisdom that you did not have before. You just say sorry to the user and you wait for the right time to fit that in your schedule.
Well, we learned that the user was using the feature to accomplish something outside of what we initially had scoped. And that was very valuable information. And I think what's going to end up happening is that particular solution that the user was trying to solve for, it's going to be solved with other features that are coming up.
Yeah, permissions, I think, is coming up, which we could solve for that, his issue for, and some other things too. Yeah. So it led to us understanding a proper way to build. The way he was using it was kind of like a little hack, I guess you want to call it.
Yes.
But we can now build a proper way to use it, and where other people can understand and easily access it too. I mean, I think that's, people can call up upset about something, but we learn from that and make the step forward. But, overall though, with the thousands of people on the platform, we, for support tickets and stuff, it's usually Em and I taking care of it right now. We don't get much, which is awesome, because our main goal is building this so simple in a way. And, before we deploy and all this and the testing and, making sure, bugs are out of it, inherently there'll be bugs here and there, and we try to address them as fast as we can. But I'm really proud of that. The team does a wonderful job, from the designing to the planning to the development, everything to push out what we do with the nimble, great team we have.
Yeah. No, the devs are amazing. They're so experienced. And I remember Gabby, who entered the team, is a developer of ours, and he entered being a junior, and he was the least junior of everyone. He was so like talkative, experimentative. I think he just understood the passion of the product and took it right away. And he was making amazing things from the start. So yeah, also I can be really relaxed designing and talking to you guys and talking to Jose, because we know that on their side everything will be all right, and if it's not, it will be okay. They'll find a way. But
well, I love it in like in our like backlog refinements, and Ali's presenting her designs and all these ideas, and sometimes you just look at the face of the devs and they're like, we didn't scope for that, but
no, you don't know, but I prepare them, because I sometimes say, and you don't know this, but my inner Em and Pete say this. And no, we try to always cushion all the news. Yeah. Sometimes when times are really strict, we don't, but we know they can handle things. And also, there's nothing we cannot talk with you guys. Maybe a backlog refinement, just, it was ideas. And then we can always, be realistic with development, because I think Em mentioned this. People might not know how difficult it is to get something deployed, not only on my end, but maybe I design something that I need to run through you guys and then through the dev, and then they give me feedback, and then we work it, and then we develop it, and then we test it. And it's a really, I love it. I love the adrenaline, the communication, and they send me that first link, like, Ale, this is ready to test.
Let's do it. It's Christmas. Yeah.
And also Peter, we always say Peter has the best faces in the reviews, because he's smiling ear through ear. And for them,
it's exciting. It's like opening presents every morning on sprint release days.
But really, it's not common. I tell you, like sometimes and it's not a bad thing, because tough clients teach you very valuable lessons. Mm-hmm. It's just understanding that it's a job, it's business, and sometimes they just accept the features with this face, and sometimes with a smiley face, delightful, and it gives the team such encouragement. So I think we have a wonderful team, because I feel you're very solid leaders, and very communicative, and we just love your smiley faces.
I like to smile, and then I repeatedly smash the emoji icons in Google Chat, so it floods the screen. Yeah, it's fun.
But they know when they're going to get it, because they will say, oh, in this review, I'm sure Peter will smile, because we have the compare side by side, and now it's done.
The money line. Nice. That's great. Well, I have a question for you, Ali. So going back 2 years from when you started with us, is there anything you would tell your Ali self 2 years ago? From who you are now and the experience you've had through building VeryBusy and all this, what advice would you have for her?
I didn't say anything to her.
Don't take the job.
No. I wouldn't say anything, because I think that by not knowing what I was getting into, I just I learned so much from my mistakes, from my frustrations, from my the things that I liked. I wouldn't hint her anything, because I'm tough with myself. I like that answer. I'm tough with myself, that anybody could be with me. And I think I not knowing taught me to be more relaxed with frustration, to be more mature about those things. So no, I wouldn't. I will just go.
Yeah. Go fly away.
You don't need to know anything, because that's the point of learning. Know.
Yeah.
No,
I've seen some things.
No, it's been delightful. No, really, it's been great. So no, nothing. Go be.
Well, you've been a pleasure to work with.
You're such an asset to the team, to the joy that you describe Peter displaying. We get the same thing. I mean, it's reciprocal. Like, we get the same thing from you. I feel a genuine joy that is evident in your work and what you bring to the table. So I'm really appreciative of that.
Thank you. No, I love it. I mean, sometimes I always say, like, have a relationship with you guys, like this is, but I mean, because you guys opened the door for me to be this passionate, and now that I'm growing, I don't want to. and I'm a senior, which, no, I don't like that. I just live my life, but I see my coworkers saying, "Oh, Ale, you're inspiring to me. Like the way you talk about VeryBusy." I'm like, I don't know. I must be such an annoying. But the way no, that's what calms me. Like when I'm really frustrated, I say to myself, nobody's gonna be hurt from this, so I need to calm down. Nobody's going to get hurt. Yeah, just Peter's heart. Just he smiles.
Just me.
No, you guys are amazing. I really deep in my heart. I want VeryBusy to be amazing, and that's also a big push for me. And yeah, thanking you for opening the doors and grow. It's been
of course
really amazing. So
you've been a pleasure, and yeah, thanks for sharing.
We're not saying goodbye. It looks like we're saying goodbye.
No, we look forward to many continued sprints of your beautiful, inspired work.
More user interviews.
Yes. Come talk to me. I'm super nice. I had a user send me a personal email saying that he had a wonderful time because I'll make jokes.
Yes, if you're listening to this and you're a VeryBusy user for anything, you should just email Ale. I'll put her personal email and phone number in the description.
I'll teach you some Spanish and Italian.
Do a user interview with her. She will be ecstatic. Amazing. Oh, great. Well, Ale, thank you so much for meeting with Em and I, talking about what you do for us, the many hats you wear here at VeryBusy. We'll have you on again soon. I think we should go through we should come back and just talk about like horror stories of development and design. That would be a good one.
Or the roadmap.
Why we don't sleep, the roadmap, or mapping approval processes, waking up with night sweats, and all that good stuff.
Anytime. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure talking. Well, and it's weird that people ask me about my work, but I'm always willing to share.
Like to hear it. Well, we wanted everybody to understand kind of what our day, what goes into creating VeryBusy and starting with you and the design part of it, major part of it. Yeah, I think we should have like Jose and our product owner. We should get some devs on here.
Yes.
And kind of go over the whole thing.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. But thanks for joining us today. And
thanks, Ale.
Yeah, see you in backlog refinement tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in. And if you're tired of juggling a million things and want to take your retouching workflow to the next level, head over to VeryBusy.io and start your 30-day free trial. No strings attached, no credit card needed, just pure productivity. Link in the description box. If you like what you heard today, do us a solid, subscribe and leave us a rating. This will help us reach more creatives just like you. And I'll catch you next time on the Wrap Party podcast powered by VeryBusy.io.